Alrighty then. So MadameNoire has this conversation on are biracial children black enough, and as you can see, those are the four ladies who had the conversation. For the most part, they're of different complexions and whatnot. That's important, I guess, because none of them have an issue with biracial people or mixed people, whatever you want to categorize them, representing what blackness is, and that's a conversation that's been going on a lot lately on the internet and whatnot, in conversations. And I think it's pointless, not because it's not important, but it's pointless because what these all ladies said right here, like they don't get it. Sometimes people pick and choose when they want to, you know, be upset about, people who are half of them being able to represent them. So it's like they pick and choose when they want to. I've been in conversations where, I remember when a few years back, they're like, Game of Thrones has the first black actress and the chick is mixed, and women were like, nah, hell no, she ain't black. But then we praise Obama, and I understand why Obama gets the praise because of the position, and we gave that to him. Most people who think logically, not just with symbolism and all that nonsense, they'll that's why Tiger Woods was, he cock blocked that, said no, I'm not, I'm Camblaisian. But the first black golfer, like, of course black folks are gonna latch on to those things and wanna take credit for it or get it, which is silly to me. But I don't know. These all these women here were saying that it's cool for biracials to be considered black and all that, and I agree to a point where when it comes to how you identify, that's one thing. But when it comes to especially the media, or even when it comes to actual policies, government-wise and stuff like that, it's important to separate who is what and who is not. I remember being in dialogues where this one chick, dark-skinned, attractive female from Toronto, she's arguing with me about, she said specifically, I know who my people are, in regards to, there was an article of the 13 people who are black but you didn't know, or celebrities or whatever, and the better title would have been 13 people who are mixed and pass for white, right? But, and then the conversation was also about the video of the girls and saying that she wish her mom was white because, she's mixed, and when she goes to hang out with her white friends, like, it looks out of place. That video where all these, even adult biracials, were talking about the struggles and the things they went through growing up and having to pick and stuff like that. And they're all saying, like, yo, we don't want to have to pick, which I think is the future. Like, the kids that are growing up today, I have two biracial nieces. They're not being taught to pick. They're told, they're mixed, and they embrace all of who they are. And it's like, it's just that simple. Like, it shouldn't be that complex. But this chick was talking about, like, I know who my people are, even though in the video her people are telling her, like, yo, we gonna embrace all of who we are. Another thing I also noticed too, like, whenever I comment in on a Facebook post, I'm usually trolling when I do it, but I just point out, like, when they're saying the first black this and the first black that, I'm like, well, the person is actually mixed, but carry on. And it's usually a white woman who likes that comment. And to me, my opinion about that is just simply like, some of these white women they have mixed kids or mixed grandkids, and they don't like the idea of, well, this is my grandkid I probably raised in some cases, or my daughter's mixed, and she didn't know how to deal with the whole people, black people latching on to that and saying you're one of us and you're ours. So they don't really say nothing about it. But I think the younger generation of Becky's with mixed kids, they don't play that at all. Like, my brother's daughter's mothers, they don't play that. I know a lot of these younger chicks, under 30, whatever, they is not letting you say this person is black when they came out of her womb. They put them 18 hours labors in. Like, they off that. So, and I think that that's the future. And I really think that black people need to get off the one drop rule and co-sign the biracial people as black and all that, because that's what America's going to start look more of in the future anyways. And then it's going to be a space where they're going to be comfortable to be able to embrace all of who they are and not have to pick and choose sides, especially with, Rob Redden. He's a radio host, and he talked about a few years back when Obama got elected, and he kind of gave his opinion why how biracials let Obama slide by, claiming the blackness, because they understood the significances of it and the symbolism in it, but a lot of them started to resent it in the second election because he didn't, he stuck with it. He didn't address it again, and I think honestly that's one thing that I think that could have bridged some gaps. Could have, if the one thing that I think Obama could have did is acknowledge that he is mixed, especially his history being raised by two white women in Hawaii, which was the utopia of the United States, while everybody else was, marching and fighting and stuff like that. People ran to Hawaii to live in their little liberal utopia. So, but I do think that that one thing that would have, I think, would have done a better job of uniting the country instead of if he would just acknowledge he was both. And I is regardless of what people say, I've noticed even watching Fox News, more people over there, they acknowledge. People say, well, white people see you as black, so it don't matter. But that's like more often than not, it's white liberals who will call you black if you're mixed, and they will never call you mixed. They'll always call you black. They don't want to claim you. Whereas I noticed, like I remember Stacey Dash was on different segments talking, and they all acknowledged that she was black and Mexican. They all pointed out that she was mixed, which was it's funny being that if that's not one reason why you should hop off the one job rule. Is the thing about everybody's pointing out Stacey Dax's comments about BET and all that, and how she's been on the cover of all these black targeted male magazines. But it's like, think about that though. She's a mixed race woman. She's Vista Villano, right? She's the same thing as Donald Sterling's side chick. Same thing. She's got a little bit darker skin, but essentially she's the same thing. But she's been on the cover of every black male targeted magazine. So you won't find her on the cover of any Latin or Mexican or whatever cover magazine, but you will find her on the cover of black magazine. I'm saying that's the type of stuff that constantly happens. And when it comes to, that's what it's more about. It's not really affect black men. It's more so affects black women, especially black girls. It is an issue. I know a lot of people want to ignore it and say these are trivial conversations and it's whack, but I'm like, the reality is when you look on TV and you look at the promotion and all the stuff, when you got people who are half of you representing you, that's the problem. And I know for men, it ain't that way. Like when people say, well, now that you have a black president, you can, be inspired. Like, no, because we can look at men in general as kids and be like, I want to be a cop, I want to be a firefighter, I want to do this, I want to do that. Their race had no issue on us. Playing with little white G.I. Joes or, wrestler toys, it doesn't have the same impact on boys as it does black women, as girls, period. Like, it's a different way we view the thing. So that's why a lot of men, they just don't want to be a part of this conversation, and they just like, don't judge me by my preferences, leave me alone. So they just fall back because we have a different view of it. Now, and I used to think the same way too when I was like looking at black girls rock and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is some, female feminist power nonsense. But at the same time, it's like, okay, then they do have issues, right? And it's not just on TV, but it's in their own community because a lot of black folks fetishize and put mixed people on pedestals. So it's like, all right, I was like, okay, I see that there could be an issue there. And I don't go as far as some folks. I don't go as far as, some women particularly have issues when the brother's choice of woman is fair complexion or mixed or whatever. I don't get into all that. I just know from a basic standpoint when it comes to promotion and validation, when it comes to people who look like half of you being able to represent all of who you are, I wouldn't do that. Most men don't do that. When we look at, right now, Jesse Williams, the BET Awards just happened and everybody's praising him, and some conveniently now black women are pointing out that he's mixed, but any other time these same black women will co-sign him as being black, but they're only saying like, he doesn't even have a black mother and he knows how to treat a black woman and promote them and put them on pedestals. And I'm like, don't you kind of get that as kind of a backwards dish to you though? Because it's like, if you're giving Obama, first black president, and Jesse Williams, he's the black activist right now. He's the face of black activism. Him and J. Cole, two biracial dudes. It's like, but you're missing the one point though, like the values they have, the way they respond, the way they act, the virtues you like about them were given to them by their white mothers. And y'all don't even acknowledge that. It's like when it comes to Obama, as much as again I understand black people, because of the title he has, black people are gonna latch onto that regardless, but in reality, and I'm not on no pro-blackity black, the black woman's God nonsense at all, but you would think the one thing you can't take from a black woman is that the first black president would come out of her womb, not a white woman. And not only that, but not be raised by white women. I was gonna make a meme, because it had a picture of Sandra Bullock with her little African baby, and I'm like, I was gonna put the caption, "I'm African, and I got a white mom. I can be president," right? It's almost like saying, it's like, you know, that a black woman couldn't produce these type of men that y'all are putting on pedestals and praising. They had to be made and created by white women. So, I don't know. That's just a way I look at it. It's like, yeah, I got to put things into perspective. I don't think it's going to change. I think black folks are going to keep doing it, and they're going to keep latching on. It's just the only way it's going to change is when more and more of these younger generation of kids, they let you know, like, yo, we not picking, we not choosing, and we don't feel any type of way. And what I was saying about Rob Redding was that, you know, biracials acknowledge that, you know, okay, this is bigger than us, it's more powerful than us. Yeah, you know, he's the first mixed race president. Like, that's something that they should have been championing, but, you know, black people co-opted it and said, nah, he's ours. And again, I understand why, but it's like, I think it could have been a more powerful message if he had come out and embraced. Because when you even listen to the interview on The View, and he's asked about, you know, what he identifies as and why and all that, and he goes, well, we're a mongrel people, like basically saying that black folks are a bunch of mutts and we got everything in us, yet and still just deflecting from the reality that, you know, you're mixed. You have, not only that with him, you can go deeper than that, because, and I forgot how Yvette Cornell rephrased it, but you can't even correlate him, and Dr. Ben Carson pointed it out, and everybody got on him just because of his political views, but he's like, yo, he can't liken his existence, his past being with a black American male, because his father is Kenyan. Like, there's a picture of Obama with the great grandson of a slave, and I'm like, okay, so you have the great grandson of a slave shaking hands with the president, who is probably the great grandson of slave owners on both sides of his family, because again, he is Kenyan, or his father's bloodline is, and they own slaves on both sides of his family. They own slaves, so it's like little stuff like that. It's like, I get the symbols, but when you break it down, it's like, you know, we miss a lot of those things. But one thing I also noticed too, and I'll probably do a deeper video on this going, but like Tracee Ellis Ross, she made it plain when she quoted, she said, all my actress jobs that I've always been, you know, a black woman, and Black-ish is the first time she ever had to play what she actually is, biracial woman. And I've noticed that too with like Black-ish. She's acknowledging that she's biracial and that's her character, and they play into it. On the Carmichaels, Gerard's girlfriend, she's actually mixed in real life, and they're playing to that on the show too. They even joke about it, make fun of it and all that. And even on Suits, the freckle-faced chick, the Becky, who really looked like she could pass, they've actually acknowledged her being mixed too, which I didn't really know. I knew she was a little bit off-color, but it was funny the way they did it, because it's almost like they didn't know they were going to do it or not. Because she said some line like, what did you think this was, an all-year tan? Like, that's how she came out, like 4 or 5 episodes in, I think, to acknowledge that she was mixed. And they had to do that because her father on the show is the brother from The Wire, the dude from New Orleans. But watch out for that too, though. Watch out for, instead of seeing so many black women get replaced by biracial women for roles, they're going to just say, forget doing that, and just use biracial women and make them the love interest and make them the wife in a lot of these TV shows and sitcoms. That might just be a trend that's going to start happening. And I think there's probably more dialogue you can do with that, being that, you know, the person is mixed. But that's just my quick take on it. I don't think that, I don't understand why we do that. Like, when it's like one drop in your rule, I don't know, it's just like you're letting people who are half of you represent all of you are. We know that historically, every country has a name. They identify people who are mixed as that. Yes, some of these people are hostile towards them and rude and all that in the black community. We're not saying that that should happen, but I don't think we should be fetishizing them or putting them on pedestals and letting them lead movements, you know, that it's supposed to be black. Like right now, again, like I said, Jesse Williams and J. Cole are the face of pro-blackism in hip-hop and in Hollywood. And I'm like, they got white mothers. Like, this is not a good look, you know. I got a video too coming up about Clarence Thomas and how, because that's usually the argument is, well, they're more conscious and pro-black than Clarence Thomas and yada yada. And I'm like, well, think about that for a minute, because Yvette Cornell or Dr. Boyce Watkins did a video on that, and they brought up some interesting points. But